Donald Trump's odds of winning the 2024 presidential race are soaring to record highs as Democrats debate whether their presumptive nominee, President Joe Biden, can still mount a winning campaign over the next several months. Trump has a 3 in 4 chance of winning the election, according to The Economist's election forecast, and he currently leads Biden by more than 3 points in Real Clear Polling's latest average. That is his greatest national margin of lead since January. But how is the former Republican president performing against the incumbent Democratic president in the key battlegrounds here on the Electoral College map? Whether or not Trump manages to prevent a second Biden term will ultimately come down to whether he can flip enough of the key battleground states back into the Republican Party's coalition to reach 270 electoral votes. Let's go ahead and dive right in. First, we'll go ahead and mark all of these solid or safe states for Biden and Trump. Each of these states you see here being colored in with the deepest shade of blue or red voted for Biden or for Trump by more than 8 percentage points in the 2020 election. And according to every major election forecast available to the public, Democrats and Republicans have a better than 85% chance of holding them in their respective corners in this November's contests. And so that leaves us with just these 14 states plus the 2nd Congressional District in Nebraska as our key battlegrounds. Let's go through each of them now and assign a rating based on the most recent polls. Starting out west, the latest poll in Nevada via Morning Consult and Bloomberg News has Trump leading Biden and the third-party candidates in this survey by 6 points, 45% to 39%, with independent Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at 6% among 452 registered voters sampled between July 1st and 4th, a week after the first presidential debate. RFK has qualified for the ballot in Nevada, and it's worth noting that the head-to-head version of this same poll between just Biden and Trump showed Trump's lead at a narrower 3 points. We have seen this trend in most polls so far this cycle, where Trump performs better in polls including RFK, and so this is yet another example of that. Either way, Nevada will go down as leaning towards Trump here on our map. For rating classifications in this video, margins between 1 to 3 points are tilt, while those at a point or below remain as toss-ups. 4 to 6 point margins are lean, 7 to 9 points receive a likely rating, and then those at 10 or above are solid or safe. Over in Arizona, Biden became the first Democrat to carry the Grand Canyon state since 1996, as he just narrowly beat out Trump in 2020 by 0.3%. It was the second closest margin in that election after Georgia. Arizona has shifted 9 points to the left compared to the rest of the nation since 2012, whereas Nevada, which voted for Biden by 2.4% in 2020, has shifted 5 points to the right, relatively speaking, over the last decade plus. And as a result, Republicans have become increasingly competitive in statewide contests for U.S. Senate and governor in Nevada, whereas Democrats have now won 5 straight major statewide races in Arizona. The latest survey in Arizona, also via Morning Consult and Bloomberg News, is Trump leading by 3 points in a head-to-head race against Biden among 781 registered voters surveyed between July 1st through 5th. RFK has not yet qualified in Arizona. It is a tough state to get on the ballot in, and so that's why we are using this head-to-head version here. Arizona tilts Republican for Trump with a 3-point margin. Then over in New Mexico, the latest poll comes from Public Policy Polling. It has Biden leading Trump by 7 points among 505 likely voters in mid-June. That means New Mexico goes down as a likely Democrat state. It did vote for George Bush as recently as 2004, but has now backed Democrats in the last 4 presidential elections since then by margins between 5 to 12 points on every occasion. So this would be a continuation of that trend. Notably, the 2020 election marked the first time since 1968 that New Mexico voted to the right of neighboring Colorado, which backed Biden by 14 points in 2020 and is now considered solidly Democratic. Finishing up the Southwest region now, Texas has been an emerging battleground over the last 2 decades or so, yet Democrats enter this cycle with far less optimism than in years past. Joe Biden received a higher share of the vote in 2020, 46.5%, than any Democratic presidential candidate in Texas since Jimmy Carter won Texas in 1976. Yet, with context, it was ultimately a disappointing performance for the Democratic Party, as Biden had polled within a point or two, depending on the average you look at, of Trump headed into the election. And that led several pundits and election forecasters to rate it as a toss-up. Yet ultimately, Trump's margin was still 5.6%, as Hispanic voters in South Texas left the Democratic coalition in large numbers. In fact, this Rio Grande Valley region that you see on the map here saw the largest pro-Trump swing of any area in the entire country outside of Miami-Dade County in Florida. And with Hispanics making up nearly 40% of Texas's electorate, those gains make it very hard to see a path to victory for Democrats anytime soon. The latest survey conducted by Remington Research Group between June 29th and July 1st shows Trump leading by 10 points among 589 likely voters, with Trump at 49% and Biden at 39%. RFK has qualified in Texas, but he is sitting at just 5% support here. We're going to place Texas in the solidly Republican category, with a double-digit margin favoring Trump. Now, before we move on to the Southeast region, please take a second to consider subscribing to my channel down below. According to my channel analytics page, nearly 90% of my viewers are not currently subscribed to my channel. I would really appreciate it if we could get that split closer to, say, 50-50 by election day. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you. Alrighty, now here in the Southeast, there are 4 battlegrounds: Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Biden won Virginia by 10 points in 2020, becoming the first Democrat to do that since Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1944. Virginia was long a reliably Republican state throughout the latter half of the 20th century, but Democrats have now won it in 4 straight cycles, though looking ahead to 2024, polls have shown a much more competitive race than expected. This latest survey, released by Coefficient in mid-June, is the 3rd consecutive poll showing Biden and Trump tied in Virginia. The other 2 surveys came via Beacon Research on behalf of Fox News, and then Roanoke College. If Trump really does end up being this competitive in Virginia this November, then there's really no path to re-election for Biden. We're going to place Virginia firmly in the toss-up category here based on these tied results. Just below Virginia, we have North Carolina, a perennially competitive yet Republican-leaning state in recent years. Trump won it by 3 points in 2016, and then by just 1 in 2020. The latest poll here comes via that same Morning Consult and Bloomberg battleground survey that we saw in Arizona and Nevada from July 1st through 4th. It is Trump leading by only 2 points, with 42% to 40% among 696 registered voters. North Carolina was one of the first states that RFK qualified for the ballot in, or at least claimed to have qualified. This is a narrower margin overall than you might expect in North Carolina, considering Trump's wider leads in both Arizona and Nevada. Out of the 7 key swing states, including those 2 in the Southwest, and then Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, North Carolina has been the most Republican-friendly in recent years. Though with that in mind, if, and the key word is if there is a state on the 2024 map that Biden could potentially flip into his column in November, it would be North Carolina. Though unless his other polling numbers improve drastically, that's just very unlikely to happen. His campaign will primarily be playing defense elsewhere. Here on our map, though, North Carolina goes in the tilt Republican category. Let's go down to Georgia now. Emerson College's latest poll, surveying 1,000 adults, has Trump leading by 5 points here between June 30th and July 2nd. Trump 47%, Biden 42%. RFK is not yet qualified for the ballot in the Peach State. Like Arizona, it is a difficult state to qualify in as a third party or an independent candidate. Joe Biden did carry Georgia in 2020 by 0.2%, his narrowest win in any state, Though we have not seen the Democratic president lead in a single survey here all cycle long. Georgia will also lean Republican here. Keep in mind as well that according to Adam Carlson's crosstab aggregator, Trump has gained a lot of ground among Black and Hispanic voters in poll after poll. Democrats have lost 28 points on average among Black voters since 2020 and almost 12 points among Hispanics. And these trends are especially significant here in Georgia, where Biden rode a wave of unprecedented turnout among minority voters in the Atlanta metro area to victory in 2020. He would need a similar wave here in 2024 to hold the states. Finishing up the Southeast region now, we have Florida, an electoral giant with 30 electoral votes. Florida was one of just 5 states in 2020 where Trump improved on his 2016 margin, as he did carry the state by 3.4%, and it has only shifted further to the right since then. The latest survey conducted by the Tyson Group about a month ago has Trump up 10 points among 1,050 likely voters, 46% to 36%. This would be the largest win for a candidate of either party in Florida since 1988. It joins Texas as solid Republican here on our electoral map, lifting the former president all the way up to 268 electoral votes already, just too shy of the magic number, 270. And we still have a lot more states to go here across the upper Rust Belt and here in the Northeast. Starting in Maine, a Biden plus 9 state in 2020, it has not voted Republican since 1988, yet the latest survey via digital research from back in April has Biden up only 2 points among 309 registered voters. It's especially important to monitor RFK's ballot access here in Maine since the state does use ranked choice voting, so if neither Biden or Trump hit 50%, then the outcome may come down to how third-party voters rank Biden and Trump behind their preferred first-choice candidate. For now, though, on our map, we're going to place Maine down as tilting ever so slightly in favor of Biden. And just over in New Hampshire, Biden plus 7 in 2020, it does tend to be the most competitive state here in the Northeast region, excluding Pennsylvania, of course, though it has voted blue in 7 of the last 8 cycles. Donald Trump did come less than half a point shy of Hillary Clinton in the 2016 race, before it then reverted back hard towards Biden in 2020. Yet that being said, the latest poll via St. Anselm College has Trump leading by 2 points, with 44% over Biden's 42% and RFK at 4%. St. Anselm College is a highly respected pollster, especially within New Hampshire, so this is a very notable result following the first debate. Kind of like Virginia down here, if Biden does lose New Hampshire, it's very hard to see a path to 270 for him, given that most of these other competitive states that we've looked at so far, and still to come, are less Democratic friendly, historically speaking. New Hampshire will tilt towards Trump on our map right here, and that does push the former president up and above 270 to 272, with 4 states remaining. Before we do get to those 4 states, though, let's take a quick look at the latest poll in Nebraska's 2nd congressional district as well. This survey was released by Iron Light, a Republican-sponsored poll by the League of American Workers, yet it has Biden leading by 5 points, with 42% to Trump's 37%, and then Kennedy's 13%. That is a lean Democrat rating. This Omaha-based 2nd district voted for Biden by 7 points in 2020 and is rapidly left trending as we place it down as leaning Democrat. Now all that's left is the upper Rust Belt quartet that have voted in tandem with each other in almost every modern presidential election. All 4 states went blue in the 6 cycles between 1988 and 2016 when Trump managed to flip Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, each by less than a point against Hillary Clinton, while Joe Biden did return the core Rust Belt trio back into the Democratic corner in 2020. He won Pennsylvania by 1.2%, Michigan by 2.8%, Wisconsin by 0.6%, and then Minnesota by a full 7 points. Let us start in Pennsylvania, which awards 19 electoral votes, considering that Florida is now no longer considered a true swing state. Pennsylvania has become the largest prize among 2024 battlegrounds, which also makes it the most likely tipping point state in this election. The tipping point state is the state where the combined electoral votes of all states up to that point give the winning candidate a majority in the Electoral College. Pennsylvania was the tipping point in 2016, and it would have been the tipping point in 2020 had Trump won. Anyways, the latest poll released here by 1983 Labs has Trump up 5 points, with 48% to Biden's 41% and Kennedy's 3%. 741 likely voters were sampled here between June 28th and 30th. This is one of the 3 polls to come out here in Pennsylvania after the debates, and they have each shown Trump leading by at least 5 points. Pennsylvania leans Republican here. Then over in Michigan, generally considered the bluest of the 3 Rust Belt swing states, as it consistently votes furthest to the left at the presidential level and down ballot. The latest survey, also released after the debates by Remington Research Group, has Trump's lead at 3 points, with 45% to Biden's 42% among 584 likely voters. Kennedy is at 6% here. Something worth monitoring is Michigan is one of just few states in which DDHQ has independently confirmed with the Secretary of State's office that he will indeed appear on November's ballot. Michigan joins Pennsylvania in the Republican column, but with a tilt rating. It is still another doomsday result for Biden, as you could make a strong case that Michigan is a must-win for the president's re-election campaign. It's likely that each of the other key swing states will vote to the right of it, so should Michigan lean towards Trump, the others will likely do so as well. Penultimately, in Wisconsin, decided by less than a point in 4 of the last 6 presidential contests, it's the only state that was decided by less than 1% in both 2016 and 2020. The latest survey by Fabrizio Ward, a Republican polling firm, with Impact Strategies, a Democratic polling firm, commissioned by AARP, shows Trump ahead of Biden by 5 points among 600 likely voters between June 28th and July 2nd. Biden had consistently been polling the best in Wisconsin out of the key swing states this cycle, so we'll see if this latest poll is the start of a new trend here or just an outlier. It's also worth noting, though, that Trump outperformed the polls in 2016 and 2020 by a greater margin in Wisconsin than anywhere else. Alrighty, let's finish up in Minnesota now, where Emerson College has Trump leading by 8 points, but more specifically 0.7% with 41.6% to 40.9% among 1,000 registered voters. RFK has officially been confirmed to have ballot access in Minnesota, where he's polling at 6.3% here. This is another must-win for Biden after he won Minnesota by 7 points in 2020, so the fact that it will go down as a toss-up here on our map is another dreadful data point for his re-election prospects. Now, based on the most recent poll conducted in every single competitive state, Donald Trump leads with 316 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 199. This is the first time all cycle in which the Democratic president has failed to hit 200 electoral votes. In one of these videos, Trump has not only flipped Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in the Upper Rust Belt, but also New Hampshire, and then Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada across the Sun Belt. He's also within striking distance in Minnesota, Virginia, and Maine. So while it seems that Biden may have managed to survive calls from within his own party to step aside in favor of Kamala Harris, his general election odds against Trump have never looked worse. That is all for today's video, though. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below so you don't miss future editions of presidential election analyses. You can also feel free to let me know in the comments below what you think of this map and these electoral race ratings. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below as well, and please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.